WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Tensions fly between city leaders in Aberdeen as city leaders respond to the coronavirus outbreak.
Daycare, children, retail stores closed. Sir, yes.
No.
Put in place last week. The city renewed that executive order put in place last week and then adds that fines are non-essential businesses and anyone else who fails to follow those guidelines. If a non-essential business is caught with more than 10 people or open past curfew, they can be fined $1,000. Anyone caught having a large group of more than 10 at their home could also face a fine of $500. The board also agreed on having a citywide curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. The board is also sending a recommendation to the Aberdeen food giant requesting a professional cleaning. However, Mayor Maurice Howard says that he feels the city didn't do enough in response to the pandemic.
They did not take a drastic enough measure to make sure that our citizens abide by our new ordinances and regulations. They did not care. That's all that needs to be said tonight. The Board of Aldermen did not care about the people of Aberdeen.
Now, the penalties passed will go into effect tomorrow. Governor Tate Reeves is issuing the state's first shelter-in-place order just for Lauderdale County. Courtney Jackson explains how the decisions have been data-driven.
If you don't live in Lauderdale County, you may be wondering why you should care about their shelter-in-place order. Well, your county could be next.
I want to be clear that this is the first shelter-in-place order that we are issuing from the state, but I do not anticipate that it's going to be the last.
Here's how it will work. It's not a total lockdown. There are reasons folks may leave their homes, but it will be limited.
Essential travel, which in essence is to and from work, to and from getting medical care, to and from getting supplies for your home.
The state will also ramp up testing to better identify and isolate the cases.
What we're seeing in Lauderdale County is we have identified a nursing home where we're having an outbreak. That's certainly not accounting for all of the cases. But we've not yet determined another common source for exposure that would account for all the cases. And so that makes the shelter-in-place order even more important.
Lauderdale doesn't have the highest number of cases in the state, but it had a quick spike in the last few days, making it the first target to take in more resources and further investigate the spread of the virus.
They were probably not testing as rapidly and as robust as was happening in some other communities, and that probably has led to some of these challenges.
Listed within the executive order under prohibited activities are all places of amusement and recreation being closed to the public. Things like movie theaters, playgrounds, children's party and play facilities, and bowling alleys.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
The shelter-in-place order will be in effect for 14 days. The Lauderdale County Board of Supervisors called an emergency meeting this afternoon to discuss county operations. Several county offices are now closed, such as tax collector, tax assessor, road department, and other offices at the courthouse. The county didn't put any additional restrictions in place, but options might be evaluated as time progresses.
We've already been on a limited staffing and scheduling by appointments, trying to limit as much as we can foot traffic and exposure to our employees. But
we have our routine calls for service that will continue to come in to dispatch and be given to our deputies. We will not have deputies harassing the public, making traffic stops simply because we see someone out. That's just not going to happen.
The governor has not indicated if he will impose similar orders in other counties.
A chilly day today, lots of clouds, but we had a great sunset. This is the view from downtown Columbus or around the Columbus area earlier this evening. Also in West Alabama, too, some nice color there. And our own meteorologist, Trevor Burchett, checking out the sunset this evening. So not too bad at all. Temperatures right now are cooling on down. This is our Alpha Insurance Camera Network. We've got some upper 40s now in Columbus, Louisville, Mississippi, Vernon, Durham's Pharmacy, Tupelo there. So we are cool, we are calm. Maybe a little bit of patchy fog out there. Down to around 40 tonight, back into the mid to upper 60s tomorrow. It's looking like a pretty nice day for us. Your full forecast in just a few minutes.
Last week, President Trump signed off on a $2 trillion stimulus package to address the economic crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Taxpayers could receive up to $1,200 each, plus $500 per child. Bobby Martinez talks to a financial advisor for more insight on who will receive these checks.
With President Donald Trump signing off on the coronavirus stimulus package, the question now is, when will you receive a check, and are you eligible? Financial help is on the way for millions of people. The U.S. economy is struggling as more Americans are spending less during the COVID-19 outbreak. Lawmakers believe a recently passed stimulus package will help struggling families, even some who have lost their job. Financial Concepts owner RHONDA Ferguson says the money is not a loan and it is non-taxable.
This is a payment that does not have to be repaid, won't be deducted from a tax refund or anything like that. This is a stimulus package designed to help folks who may have added expenses.
The financial advisor says if you are a taxpayer, you are eligible to receive a check. As for elderly folks who aren't required to file taxes,
there's going to be a simple tax form they can file online because they'll still qualify for the stimulus check.
Ferguson says the IRS is hoping to deliver these checks within the next 3 weeks.
All of these guidelines are coming out, but they're coming out slowly. Remember, the IRS is practicing social distancing as well and getting us information and directives. They're working as fast as they can, but we don't have all of that information yet.
Bobby Martinez, WCBI News.
To find out if you qualify, we'll have all that information over on our website at WCBI.com. Investment bank Goldman Sachs issues a frightening forecast for America's economy. Its analysts predict that the unemployment rate will soar to 15% in April, and the gross domestic product will plummet 34%. And tomorrow looks scary for millions of newly jobless Americans. It's the first of the month, and the rent is due. Mark Strassman has more.
In Lithonia, Georgia, Stephanie Murray dreads tomorrow. She owes $500 in rent, but lost her administrative job 2 weeks ago.
Can you pay it?
No.
What happens if you lose that apartment?
We don't have a place to stay.
Millions of Americans living paycheck to paycheck now face bills without one. Retail giants hemorrhaged jobs this week. Macy's furloughed most of its 125,000 employees. The Gap, 80,000 workers. Kohl's, 85,000. Jobless renters who can't pay have to speak up.
You should let a landlord know if you owe rent and you can't make your rent. Most municipalities are really making it tough for landlords to charge you fees and certainly have banned evictions during this time.
At least 26 states and the District of Columbia have imposed a temporary pause on evictions or foreclosures for some or all residents.
I rely on the rent heavily to make it.
Sherry Hearn owns a 6-unit apartment building in Denver. Her tenants can't pay their rent, so she can't pay her mortgage.
I'm in the same position they are. Of course I'm going to give them a break.
In cities like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York, there's a growing movement called Rent Strike. Don't pay it.
We are not trying to go after the small landlords who are...
Organizer Brennan Stoltz wants mortgages put on pause so landlords can help renters.
We're asking for a 3-month rent cancellation. We don't want this to be a huge bill for people at the other end of this crisis.
It bears repeating. If you're suddenly jobless and you can't pay your bills, don't hide. Contact your creditors, work out something that'll satisfy both of you. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
All right, we're going to send things over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson. Keith, I said it earlier, today was kind of a good day to have a bowl of soup or something.
It was a good day. I had my hoodie on earlier this evening.
Chilly, a little chilly.
Chilly out there, yes, and now we're cooling down to the 40s. A big quake out here, though, this evening in Idaho. There's Boise, 6.5 on the Richter scale, and that thing was felt all the way down to Salt Lake City, Utah, all the way up into parts of eastern Washington. A big quake for those folks. For us, pretty quiet going into the next couple of days. We'll talk about it in your full forecast next.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Pretty warm weather of late, pretty warm all month long and really all year long, it just seems like. But have you used your air conditioner yet? I posed that question on Twitter earlier today. 90% of you saying yes. Same story on Instagram. Have you used it? 80%, 89% yes, 11% no. I'm in that no category. I refuse to turn it on until the bitter end, trying to save on the old electricity. Here's our first alert forecast for tonight. We've got misty in Vegas. Wow, getting ready for some great weather tomorrow. Chilly start, yes, back into the 60s with all that sunshine here all day long. So let's get ready to enjoy a great day for us. Now, March, let's sum it up. Tomorrow is the first day of April. Tupelo, we were wet, we were warm, 7.8 degrees above average. Columbus, almost 10 degrees above average as far as the average temperature is concerned. And will that trend continue going into April? Well, the latest outlook from the Climate Prediction Center suggests that it will be a little bit warmer down here in the southeast and also a little bit on the wet side. So that would carry over the trend that we just had this entire month and for a good chunk of the year so far. Here's our time lapse from Vernon, our Durham's Pharmacy camera there, our Alpha Insurance Camera Network. Some clouds moved on through down to around 40 degrees tonight, perhaps a little bit of patchy fog. The wind is light. Some of you dipping into the upper 30s, all things considered, a nice and quiet night for us. Tomorrow, getting ready to head out the door early, sunny, 42 degrees or so at 7 o'clock. And by the afternoon, we are in the mid to upper 60s here into West Alabama. The winds still from the north and northwest at about 5 to 15, 67 Tupelo, 68 in Bruce. And for those of you in Columbus, 67 and perhaps a shot at some 70-degree temperatures in our far southwest. So it will be pretty nice tomorrow, 74 in Jackson, 76 in Shreveport, 72 in Mobile. High pressure and firm control of our weather here. We'll continue with a little bit of a northwest wind on our Wednesday. A few clouds filter back in tomorrow night into our Thursday. Still very nice here. And for Friday, too, variably cloudy. We may see a shower here Friday, also Saturday, too, with that next system just waiting in the wings. But I don't really foresee a lot of moisture here until maybe early next week. And temperatures will be moderating back into the 70s here, 80 by Sunday. And again, better rain chances next week. There's your AccuWeather 7-day forecast. More of the show after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. What was once a dream come true is turning out to be a living nightmare for some people. Weddings are an event many look forward to their entire lives. They spend months, even years, planning for them. Our Cash Matlock speaks with one local couple that's had to postpone their big day due to the continued spread of the coronavirus.
Madison ESCHAN and her fiancé Harrison McBride have been engaged for a little over a year now. For the past few weeks, they've been gearing up for their big day, May 9th.
I was in denial there for a little while. I was like, I'm absolutely not moving the wedding. I'm getting married on May 9th. It's just going to be me and him. If anybody doesn't come, they just don't come. And so I was in denial for a pretty long while. And then one night I just kind of was at peace with it. And I was like, you know what? It would probably be best because none of our grandparents were going to get to come. And we both have both sets of grandparents, so.
The ceremony isn't the only thing the couple has had to reschedule.
We had a honeymoon planned in Costa Rica right after the wedding, and when Costa Rica went on full country lockdown,
they canceled it for us.
Yeah, we realized that things were, the plug was getting pulled on this one.
Postponing an event can have a negative trickle-down effect on area vendors like dress shops, caterers, and even florists like Pedal Pushers here in West Point. Scott Reed started Pedal Pushers 18 years ago. Since then, he's dealt with cancellations, a few here and there.
We've had events cancel, but never, something like 8 events in a 10-week period canceled, just back to back to back to back.
Although weddings are a big stream of revenue, Reed says the coronavirus is impacting his business from all angles.
People aren't even going to church. A big part of our business are altar flowers every Sunday. And we've had people calling every week canceling their altar flowers because they find out church isn't happening this week.
The domino effect of the virus is putting a strain on both the consumer and the vendor, but both are choosing to remain positive.
I've had clients that have called and ordered flowers just for themselves, and I know they're only doing that because they love us and they appreciate us and they're trying to help a little bit during this time.
It's nerve-wracking, but we've been together for 6 years, so what's 7,
Cash Matlock, WCBI News.
Madison and Harrison have rescheduled their wedding for August. That's my birthday month, so that's a good month, y'all. And they say they're looking into the possibility of live streaming that ceremony. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, my name's Mark Rogers.
And my name's Chris Latimer. And
I'm Robbie Donahoe.
I came in right after Chris left, and so I came on board right there at the start of the football season in 2001.
I started at WCBI in December of 2006.
What was
your favorite story to cover while at WCBI, if there was one certain, I don't know if it's just like a major event, like, for instance, like an NCAA tournament, or like if there was a story you'll always remember doing that ended up being your favorite.
I was standing in that same end zone when Peyton Manning threw his first touchdown pass. It was like my third week at WCBI, and Peyton Manning threw his first touchdown pass as a college football player. But Mississippi State came back and won that game. And I was standing in that same end zone when I think it was Derek Tate threw the touchdown pass to a tight end. Was right in front of me in that end zone. It was my first game at Mississippi State in Scott Field. And then a few years later, Chris could help me out on the quarterback. I think it was Stuart Patridge, if I get that right, for Ole Miss, threw a game-winning touchdown. And then a 2-point conversion to beat Mississippi State. And Tommy Tuberville was so fired up. He and Jackie Sherrill met at midfield, and Tuberville just kind of gave him a slap across the wrist. And, I shouted something and took off. And just the rivalry between the two schools in all sports, but obviously in football, stands out to me.
Yeah, it was that run that they made in the Final Four. And that's the easy one, and that's the obvious answer, but that's the truth. And in fact, somebody emailed me just yesterday saying that in their coronavirus self-quarantine, they had watched those boys from state, and that was good viewing for a COVID-19 lockdown. So people are still watching that right now, and WCBI did a great job with that. They beat Santa Clara, and Santa Clara had Steve Nash at the time. Then they beat Utah, and Utah had Keith Van Horn. And then the next year, they make that run to the Final Four, and they take down Ray Allen in the Sweet 16, beat Kentucky, which everybody thought was the #1 team in the country and was going to run away with it in the SEC tournament. And then when they beat Cincinnati in the Elite Eight, I know Mark went to that game. I was holding down the fort. But when everybody got back to the GTR airport, the line was out to the highway, and you couldn't get in there. Wall-to-wall people, layers of people, people on chairs, people on sofas standing waiting for this team to come in. So I really remember that moment when the Bulldogs came back from beating Cincinnati. They were Final Four bound. We were live at the GTR airport, and that was one of my favorite shows.
For some reason or somehow, I convinced the station to let me go to Pasadena to cover the Alabama-Texas BCS championship game in 2009. I didn't quite know that was going to be the start of the dynasty that just about everybody wants to end now. But it was really cool, one, being in the Rose Bowl, but two, just being around the Alabama fans who had been waiting for 17 years to win a national championship. It was a little bit easier to deal with them when it had been almost 2 decades since they won a national championship. So they were actually kind of fun to be around back then. But it was really cool being in that setting and being in the middle of it when they won their first.
The fact that we get to cover at WCBI 3 SEC teams. And so it was neat covering Eli Manning's final 3 years at Ole Miss. It was pretty cool to be a part of history when Sylvester Croom gets the Mississippi State head football coaching job. But I've got to echo what Mark was talking about earlier, the rivalry. I mean, I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, so I'm a huge Badger fan. We talked about Wisconsin, Minnesota, the longest rivalry in the country, but there is nothing in the world that can compete with this rivalry between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. And I just remember those times where, I don't know how you guys deal with it now with social media. I mean, I got stuff thrown at me at both places. I mean, people, I go to Ole Miss and I have to hear, well, Mississippi State must be off today. That's why you're up here. Or vice versa when I'm at the other place. And so the rivalry, I always like electric atmospheres, those Friday nights of high school football. And with those rivalry games with State and Ole Miss, those are the ones that really stand out.
Morgan Williams' shot against UConn to win that game was arguably probably one of the most defining moments in sports history for not just Mississippi State, but the state of Mississippi as a whole, because I don't think people fully realize, the magnitude, and obviously Derek can speak to this as well because he was there on the floor shooting that shot because we're the local TV guys and we couldn't be on the floor, but actually getting to be in the arena for that shot and ending UConn's 111-game win streak where they'd went to multiple national championships. I mean, we'll never see anything like that ever again, more than likely, in basketball, because the last time we had seen that was UCLA with Lou Alcindor and Bill Walton's teams back in the 60s and 70s. So, because there's so much more parity in college basketball, I think that's what made that shot so much more significant in the history, the sports landscape history, not just in all the country, but in Mississippi for sure.
Some pretty nice weather on our Wednesday. Bright sunshine, 67 degrees, mostly sunny Thursday, 72. Some lower 70s for Friday and Saturday. Can't rule out a shower Friday. Maybe a better chance for a few showers here Saturday. Sunday's looking good. A better chance for some rain and storm, Scott, as we get into next week. But we will be moderating by the weekend.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Keith. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.